Hey guys, Prangell Gaming here. Welcome back to Talk the Wall. This is now the 5th installment, and today we'll be getting right into your responses and any questions you may have had. But first, if you haven't seen any of the other 4 installments, then why not check them out? There's going to be a link in the description of this video for the last one, and also you could access it by clicking the I button, as there'll be a link to the playlist. But as always, if there are any questions or opinions you do have, do feel free to put them in the comments section of this video, because as I said before, I do want a Millwall voice throughout. And also, an added thing for this video is I would like you guys to put your score predictions for the game against Oldham, which is going to be on Saturday, of what you think the score is going to be there. Now also, once that game's happened, I do want you guys to put down what you felt went right and what went wrong with the team, as that's a really good talking point for this next Talk the Wall. So last week I said that I'll be covering my predictions for the key players and young key players for the remaining League One teams. So in this episode of the Talk the Wall, it will be significantly larger than ever before, as I do want to get this wrapped up before the season actually starts. But before we do actually cover the young key players and the key players, I do want to cover the comments for this video, which is obviously your guys' opinions and questions. So we're going to start with Zenon here, and there is a lot to read, so do bear with me and I will explain my thoughts after. So he first started with his top 10, so he put Millwall at the top, 2nd Bradford, 3rd Charlton, 4th Bolton, 5th Walsall, 6th MK Dons, 7th Northampton, 8th Scunthorpe, 9th Coventry and 10th Sheffield United. And then he also went on to talk about a lot of stuff here, so this is where I'm going to have to talk about it all and then I'll break it down in my opinion afterwards. So he said, the new away kit doesn't look as bad in real life as it did in the drawing. I actually don't mind looking at it. Bringing someone in like Cruyffers would be good, but are Millwall really willing to spend that sort of money? Hopefully we can get a result tonight against the side Gary Alexander manages, although it won't be a particularly strong Millwall side. We also have Tony Craig's testimonial tomorrow. Come on you Lions. And then also he says about a game against Welling, which is on Monday, and I was actually going to go to that one in real life. And he said that he thought it would be a strong side. Well, it actually wasn't a strong side, but that doesn't matter too much. He also says, shame to see Ford go today after all his help with Archer and King. He can definitely come back and be a goalkeeper coach next season. We need to keep hold of Nelson, as he has to develop here, and Pavey definitely hasn't been given a chance. Hopefully Fred will be working on his attitude and work rates and will work harder this year, especially when he does things wrong. Really looking forward to Twaddock breaking into the team, and hopefully we'll see him challenge Ferguson and Wild for the left wing spot. O'Brien is sometimes inconsistent in front of goal and misses some good chances, just like Morrison does. They both need to work on that. Gregory doesn't look like the man who apparently handed in his transfer request, and Ferguson can always produce quality deliveries from set pieces. It'll be great to see Robbo back at the Den this season, and we will give him a hero's welcome. And he also said that Wigan are after Lee Gregory. Well, what do I make of this? So with the kit, I'm going to have to agree. It didn't look too bad when I was actually watching them play. I know it's slightly odd to see them in the away kit at the Tony Craig's testimonial, but I also went into the shop to have a look because I needed to find something to wear for my Millwall analysis videos, and I didn't really want to have a kit to wear. So I went in there and the material didn't look fantastic. It looked really tacky in my opinion. So in the end I actually ended up walking out the club shop with a training top, which you guys have probably already seen in my awards video. And I've got to say, there was a lot of issues that have been kicked up about this shirt. Now personally I don't really know because I haven't worn it yet, and I'd like to think that it's not too bad of a shirt, but obviously things might happen and it could obviously be quite bad. But I remember having a prostate cancer shirt when we had the sponsor on there, when we had those as our sponsors, we were working on a budget, and that I had to have 5 different shirts there, and I don't want to have to do that again, because that really is frustrating if you have to keep going back to getting a new shirt every now and then. Now I'll cover the games later on and what happened with Fordy also. Also, with the development of the young players Nelson and Pavey, I do think they have to stay at the club because they haven't really been given chances. And if they aren't given chances, then they're not going to be in Harris's plans for the future, as he does tend to use the younger players. Now, I won't be talking about Fred, Morrison, or even O'Brien for that factor, but I will talk about Lee Gregory. I saw him play in the testimonial, and to be honest, he didn't look amazing when he was on the ball. And Morrison actually looked like he had a lot more energy than him and looked a lot more fresh. Now, this thing with Gregory going to Wigan, if it could happen, I would say good on him, because it definitely is progressing his career, because Wigan are 10 times the side that Rotherham are, and I think that he could definitely challenge for a starting spot, but I would only say to let him go if we could get a decent price for him. I would probably command 3.5 million for him at least, as we'd need the money to sign another class striker, but I've got to have to say that we really do need that at least, because that's how much it costs to actually sign a striker nowadays, because the prices that people are paying for players is too much money. I do hope that Gregory is going to be fit for this season and he'll do well this season. And finally, with Paul Robinson, I cannot wait to see him at the Den again, as he is a legend of the club. Now, the next person to say something was Joe Holloway, and he said Abdu is going to be a coach as he is currently taking his badges. Now, I did actually already know this. For the people that didn't actually know, then now you know. Do you actually think Abdu could actually become a Millwall manager? Do let me know in the comments section of this video. Harry C then said, I'd like Saville to come back to Millwall. We could do with another centre midfielder, and personally I don't like Tony Craig, especially as our captain. I've never really seen any passion from him in the handful of times I've seen him play. Also, I've met him before and he came across as rude to most of the fans. However, I've not seen him play too much in person, as I started going to the second half of last season when he was injured, so hopefully he will change my opinion on him this season, but I still think Morrison should be the captain. Now, I've said my piece on Saville, so I'm not going to go into that. That was a story for a couple of weeks back. But with Tony Craig, I'm really getting frustrated with this, because I'm going to have to disagree. He's a great guy. I've met him in real life. I've talked to him quite a lot. I really do like talking to him, and I kind of knew him for quite a while. He's a fantastic player, and I do hope that he's going to make you guys change your opinions, as he's really humble and he is a great captain, and he was really one of the main players that played well in his testimonial. I know you could say his testimonial was his testimonial, and yes, he should be playing good in that, but this should show signs of so much more to come. He looked really good, and only time will really tell whether he's going to be good this season or not, but I really hope he is, and because he's so versatile, that also helps the club out. Now, I said I would cover the friendlies, so I will speak about them fairly quickly. So in the first friendly, we played Greenwich Borough. The game ended 3-2 to Millwall, and our goals came from Alfie Pavey and Jamie Philpott, and the other goal was actually an own goal. However, I don't know who got the assist, because to be honest, when you look at sides like Greenwich Borough, you can't get too much information on them, and you look on Twitter, you look on other sites, and there isn't too much. I actually had to go on their website to find out who actually scored for us, which is slightly odd, but now you know. Now, with the second friendly, it's against Brentford, and it ended 1-0 as Morrison scored a header after Sean Williams lifted the ball over the top of the defence. And I've got to say, it was a perfect pass, and Williams was so good. And he was another player that people don't like too much, but I really hope he could prove the doubters wrong as well. And then the final game was against Welling United. This game ended 1-0 to Welling, and really Greg Wild was one of the only senior players to start that game, and I can't actually find out who scored on that one. I found out the result on Welling's Twitter page, but that is as far as I found out the result. No one really talked about it. Now, before I go into the real main feature of this Talk the Wall, let's talk about the Millwall legend and, well, the goalkeeper that's just gone to Portsmouth, David Ford. I'm really saddened by this, as I'm disappointed to see him go. He's a great leader of the team, and he did help train both Archer and King up. And I've heard that he left because he wasn't guaranteed to be second choice to Archer, as Harris said he wanted to use King more next season, which I'm really upset about, because King should have one more season out on loan, because he's never going to touch the number one spot. Archer should be guaranteed a number one spot because of how well he was last season. That being said, we'll see if he does slip up. You never know what could happen. But then there's that actual issue that we don't have then an experienced player in that team if Archer does mess up. And I do think keeping Ford would have been a safer bet, but I do hope he does fantastic at Portsmouth. And as someone said above, Zenon, he said that he wants him to become a goalkeeper coach. I really hope he does, and I really hope we haven't seen the last of David Ford at Millwall. So as I said, I'll be talking about the key players and the young key players for the remaining teams. Now, if you do want to hear of the other sides that haven't been mentioned in this video, which was obviously AFC Wimbledon, Bolton Wanderers, Bradford City, Bristol Rovers, and finally Bury, then you should go check out the last Talk the Wall. I will leave a link in the description for that. So without further ado, let's cover my predictions for the final 19 teams in the league. So we're going to start with Charlton Athletic here. here, the main rivals for Millwall in the league, and I believe their key player would be Nicky Iose. As I talked about this in a previous Talk the Wall, he will score so many goals for them and help them challenge next season, and I really do think he will make the difference to the team that really did get a lot of issues spark up after being relegated. For their young key player, I would have to go with Callum Harriott. This guy has skills, and I believe that he's just starting to get good, and he could definitely add something to Charlton's attack if it does go sour up front. Next up is Chesterfield, and the player that should define their season really would be Ched Evans, and I know you guys probably think that's a joke, but it isn't. He is a striker and they do need goals, and it could be time for him to prove himself, despite obviously all that controversy that has surrounded him and the club. I know there's been a lot of issues there, but hopefully he does become a good striker, because at the end of the day, if he is a professional footballer, maybe he could prove that he's more professional nowadays. Now for their young key player, I'm going to have to go with someone that's on loan from Liverpool, and it's Ryan Fulton, their goalkeeper. As he's come in, he's a younger player, and their goalkeeper Tommy Lee will obviously be challenged by him coming in, and I do hope that Fulton does really well, as then he could go back with some experience to Liverpool. I don't think he'll start at Liverpool, but obviously it'd be good to have some experience and do really well in this league, because it is a starting ground for a lot of good players. Coventry City are a side that I actually found it quite hard to predict a key player for. Now, this is because the majority of their players are, I'm going to say it, really, really young. And I've gone with a new signing here, someone that you kind of wouldn't expect, and it's going to be Marvin Sordell. And this is a player that has to prove that he can hit the heights in League One, as he has now been playing for, well, he'll now be playing for a pretty competent mid-table team instead of a team that really was struggling, and I believe they got relegated. And for the key young player for Coventry, I could have picked a whole host of players, but I've gone with Ruben Lameiras, their Portuguese youngster. He played 32 games last season, and I was quite impressed with him, so he might be ready for an even better this season. I hope he's going to do really well in this campaign and prove that he could be something good, because the thing is with Coventry's team, they have so many youngsters and they should all go on to do good things, because they're getting built up and given experience at a young age. Similar to what's happening at Millwall, there's a lot of youngsters that are being given experience to somewhat stage that they're now experienced. Fleetwood Town are the next one of the sides, and I do expect them to struggle, and out of all the team, I would expect their key player to be Bobby Grant, as he's a fairly good player and he should stay in the league with Fleetwood. I hope they don't get relegated, because he's one of their marquee players, and I know he caused Millwall so many issues, and he really does define the team. And I do feel that if Fleetwood do get relegated, it could be time for him to actually leave the club. Now their young key player is someone that I was really surprised was at the club before, and this is Devante Cole, because he hasn't hit the heights, obviously, as much as he would have been expected, because he was a prospect at Bradford, but he does have potential there, and he could prove it and be the key to Fleetwood Town survival. He really is a good attacking player, and I think that he could definitely add something to their attack, because that is somewhere there they will definitely need a lot from, and Bobby Grant and Devante Cole could definitely make the big impact they need and even keep them in the league for one more season at least. Now the next club is Gillingham, and I'd have to say that I had to pick a different key player because the player I picked got injured. And I think it's for at least a season. It is Lee Martin, and I do wish him a speedy recovery. He's one of my favourite players that was actually at Millwall, and I really do hope that he comes back and he isn't really out forever now and he has to retire from football, because I was one of those people that really did like him play, and he wasn't given enough opportunity at Millwall. So now for Gillingham, I've picked their key player to be one of their newer signings as well, of Scott Wagstaff. He has bags of experience, and he'll add to an already strong midfield. And talking of a strong midfield, if you hadn't guessed Gillingham's key young player, then it would have to be Bradley Dack. Now, the reason he isn't the key player is because of the rule for the key young player and key player. If he's under the age of 23, then I count them as young players. So really, Bradley Dack is their key player, to be honest, but he is their key young player because some younger players are the senior players in the team, just as I touched on with Coventry. Dack doesn't really need an introduction, I'm going to be honest. He really was fantastic last season, to the extent that I think Hull were actually trying to get him, and he's definitely one of the best midfielders in the league. And I'm sure that he should already be in the Championship, but I don't know whether it'll be with Gillingham, so we'll have to find out. Now, finally, this is the team you have been waiting for, the mighty Millwall. And this, I honestly is so hard to have gone and picked 2 players out of all the players in the team, because obviously when you love a club, you want all the players to succeed and you really think that all of them are really good. And I'm going to have to say it was between 2 players for the key player. The first one was Byron Webster, who I actually talked to him and he jokingly said that he wanted to score 10 goals. And also this player, which I have chose, which is Lee Gregory. Now, I really do think he needs to score 30 goals this season, and I believe it makes it the most important for Lee Gregory's Millwall career. And after this transfer request issue, I really do think that he wants to prove that he can do things with Millwall and he wants that glory. And I just want to point out that that transfer request issue obviously was false, or it hasn't been proven that he actually put one in the end. Now for the key young player, I would have to go with Fred. Now, this could have been absolutely anyone because we have so many young pivotal players in this team. You could have gone with Marlon, you could have gone with Ben Thompson, you could have even gone with Aidan O'Brien or even Jordan Archer. But I went with Fred because this really could be the time for Fred to prove himself. And if he doesn't, then he may not stay at the club because Harris only really wants youngsters that can prove that they're worthwhile. And I do think that Fred should stay with us even if he doesn't obviously improve too much this season, as Harris said he wants him to play as a striker a little bit or a centre forward role, which is something that should be really interesting to look at. And maybe Fred is the answer to our striking issues sometimes. And he does have so much talent there, and I really think that he just needs to tap into it. And maybe, I know I've made this criticism before, just defend a little bit more. That wouldn't go amiss too much. I really would like it if he could defend. Newly promoted MK Dons is the next team, and their key player will surely have to be Nicky Maynard. He has so much experience and could score a great number of goals, and I did predict him to become one of the top goal scorers in the league. And I'm going to be honest, if he doesn't, then his career really is going to fizzle out because he is in League One football now and he hasn't really ever done much for what he should have. Now for their key young player, I'm going to have to go with one of the players that I said I wanted us to sign, and that's Samir Cruyffers. And this ex-Aston Villa man is really talented and he should really be already playing in the Championship. I don't know why he's still with MK Dons, but maybe if MK Dons don't go up, he might go up because he definitely is a lot better than what he's playing in at the moment, and I do think he will succeed. Another newly promoted side is Northampton Town, and their key player in my opinion is someone that they have literally just signed, and that is Matthew Taylor. Yes, the veteran has turned up to play in League One, and I really do like him. Despite his age, he's a really talented player and was really good for Burnley when he played, and I think they'll add so much experience to their midfield after Northampton did actually lose one of their most important midfield players in Ricky Holmes to Charlton. Now for their key young player, I'm going to have to go with Adam Smith, the goalie who is #1 for Northampton, or at least he was last season. And the reason I've gone with this is because he has to battle 2 new goalkeepers for that #1 spot. Should he succeed, I think he'll become one of the best goalkeepers in the league. Oldham Athletic are the next team, and they're a side that have lost so much, and it really wasn't easy to predict a key player for them, or even a young key player for that matter. But I'm going to have to go with their key player to be Anthony Gerrard. Yes, the player that complained that a Millwall fan hit him. I'm not even going to go into that. That's a story for another day. But he is an experienced defender and he can get the job done, which is really what Oldham need after losing some of their main players and obviously their #1 goalkeeper. So he'll be their main force in their defence. And I really do think that he'll be able to do a nice job for him. You'll probably see him play on Saturday against us. Now, for the key young player, I'm going to have to go with a player that I personally like, and his name is Jake Cassidy. Now, I believe he used to play for Wolves, and he's a great young striker and is still unproven, at least at this level and any level he wants to be. And as I said, I think he has played for Wolves in the past, and that's a shame because he is a good striker, but I just think he needs to score some more goals. Maybe this season could be time for him, as they have lost a lot of their attacking threats. Oxford United is the final team that actually got promoted, and they've lost 2 of their main key players in Kemar Roof and Callum O'Dowa. Now, it would really make that so hard for us to predict a key player here, and I'm not going to lie though, that is really good news for League One because they are 2 fantastic footballers. They both obviously joined the Championship, as Kemar Roof went to Leeds and Callum O'Dowa went to Bristol City, I believe. So the key player for Oxford, I've gone with at least, is one of their players in Alex McDonald. He's someone that's remained with them, so I surely think he should succeed succeed and have a very good season. He was pretty good when he played up against Millwall, and I do think he's a fantastic midfielder, and he could create a lot of issues for some of the defences that think they're a lot better than they are. Now for the key young player, I'm going to have to go with John Ludstram here. Now sorry if I said that name wrong, but he is an ex-Everton player, and I think he's a great midfielder and could definitely add something to this Oxford side, and he was pretty good last season. I really do think that he is destined for good things. He could maybe help Oxford create a solid team to maybe even go up to the Championship in a couple of seasons' time. Peterborough United are the next team, and their key player, that at least what I thought was going to be their key player, would have been John Taylor, but he has gone to Rotherham. I'm very, very frustrated about that. I like John Taylor, and he hasn't furthered his career by going Rotherham, but that's a story for another day. So I'm going to go with their captain here, Michael Boswick, to be their key player, as he's a great, strong player and very stable, and, well, I'm going to be honest here, he has a really, really good beard, and he is one of their only senior players, and he is an ex-Millwall youth player, and I do think he's going to be that guide that they need in that team. As I've said before, I don't really like the Peterborough team. They don't have that many players that shout out real world class, but if they do have someone that shouts out world class, it's definitely going to be their young key player here, Marcus Maddison. He is an incredible player. How was he with Peterborough? I don't understand. He had such a good last season where he scored 12 goals and got 16 assists in all competitions for Peterborough United. And I do expect him to have the same or even go further, and he will be such a great asset to the team. He should already be in the Championship. I really don't understand why he's wasting his time in League One. He is a fantastic player. The following team is Port Vale, and their key player would be a newer player for them, and he is Sam Foley. He can control their midfield, and after some of their most important players left, he really is one of their best players. Now, for the key young player, I'm going to have to go with one of their younger strikers here in JJ Hooper. He is someone that's developing nicely and could be thrown into the mix after AJ Lexsmith joined Shrewsbury. And I do believe he scored against Millwall when he played us, and he isn't too bad. Rochdale are the next side, and I really think this player could be their key player, and it's their new defensive signing from Scunthorpe United, Noel Cavan. I think that this will be a great bit of business here, as he will add some defensive skill to their back line, which a side like Rochdale, they have a decent team, but their defence could do with a bit of improving, so he is a good signing, and I think they'll definitely improve that back line to an extent that they could have a pretty decent season. Now for their key young player, this was quite hard because there are a few players in the Rochdale team that really could have been the key young player, but I'm going to go with the ex-Barnsley player Ruben Noble Lazarus, as he has potential to do really well, and he was hyped up in the past, and I really do think maybe this season could be the time where he finally does what he needs to do. So what do you guys reckon about that? This next team is a team I really hate, Scunthorpe United, and I don't mean hate as in I just hate the team straight up, it's that I hate Millwall playing them. Millwall always struggle when they play Scunthorpe United, and it's always been one of those bad memories since I first saw them play Scunthorpe at Wembley when we lost. Now for their key player, he's a player that comes with a lot of credibility, and well, it's going to be Paddy Madden if you didn't expect it. One of the players I expected to be the top goal scorers in the league, and I'm just going to say it here, this guy literally leaks goals, and it'd be quite hard to challenge him in terms of scoring unless he gets injured. Now on their young key player, I'm going to have to go with their new signing, Duane Holmes. Now I do apologise if I said that wrong, but he is a very, very good holding midfielder, and I think he'll create a lot of chances for Paddy Madden, and it could finally be a season where Scunthorpe get into the playoffs if they get the right chemistry going between the players, and I do think he is a step in the right direction. Now Sheffield United are a side that really have had quality for years, and really should be already in the Championship. I mean, it is really a laughing matter, the fact that they've failed so many times now, but the player I think will be their key player is Billy Sharp. This guy is an amazing striker. He has done it in the Prem, he's done it in the Championship, he's also done it in League One, and he has got so much experience, and he is going to be such a good role model for the younger players in the team. Now talking of these younger players in this team. I believe that for the key young player, it's going to be Shea Adams. I think he will become at least a young key player for this season, as I know it was 2 seasons ago, but he did score 2 amazing goals against Tottenham. That does prove his skill, and I think Billy Sharp is the right player to have alongside Shea Adams. The next team up is Shrewsbury Town, and their key player is going to be their goalkeeper, Jason Leutwiler. Now, the reason I have gone with him, because he was the main reason why Shrewsbury stayed in the league. He is an amazing goalkeeper, and it is really good that Shrewsbury kept him at the club, and I really do think that he could improve Shrewsbury's season a lot. Now, he didn't keep too many clean sheets, but I think he's set to have a good season this year and really prove that he can do it in League One. Now, for the young key player for Shrewsbury, I'm going to have to go with their centre-back, Dominic Smith, and the reason I've gone with this is just due to the fact Shrewsbury have 3 centre-backs, and I really do think there is a space for him in this team. I believe one of them's 31 years old, another is 27, and then this guy is under 23, which is a really good thing for him. He has age on his side, obviously, to have a lot of expectation ahead of him if one of them does get injured. Now, next up is Millwall's rivals, Southend United, and their key player is their veteran striker, David Mooney, and he is only one of 2 strikers that they have at the club at the moment, or to my knowledge at least, so it's going to be important that he gets goals to keep them out of trouble, because I can't remember where I predicted Southend to finish, but I do think they'll finish a lot lower in the league table now, because I didn't realise they only had 2 strikers. I thought they had a couple of other players that could have scored goals. Obviously, after Worrell left and Daniel Bentley, their goalkeeper, left, they could be in some serious trouble. Now, for the young key player, I'm going to have to go with Jason Williams, the other striker, and to be honest, I think that strikers really will determine the season for Southend, and they only have 4 players under the age of 23, or actually at the age of 23, so it didn't really make it too easy to decide, so I went with him in the end. The second to last team is Swindon Town, and their key player would surely be their captain, Nathan Thompson, who has been at the club since he came through their youth ranks in 2009, and this player is a key part of the team, and if you remove him, there could be a lot of issues in that back line for Swindon. Now, for their key younger player, I'm going to have to go with Lawrence Vigouroux. Yes, the goalkeeper that paid his £50 fine for being late with 5,000 1p coins is going to be the key young player, and I really do think that despite all these controversial issues that he's been involved in, he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and obviously he can show off a bit more and hopefully produce a lot of important saves for Swindon this season. Now, the final team is Walsall, a side that just missed out on finishing second and then fell short in the playoffs. But enough about last season, let's talk about their key player. Now, I'm really going to go with Simeon Jackson here, their only senior striker that they have at the club at the moment, and if they don't want a disaster, then Simeon is going to have to score goals, and a lot of them. Now, for their young key player, I'm going to have to go with a player you really should expect, as he's a really popular player, one for the future. Definitely a lot of bigger clubs are looking at him. Now, if you haven't figured it out, it is Rico Henry. He got 4 assists last season. I would expect him to double that this season, in a season that could be make or break for Walsall after losing so many crucial players. So that is all that we've got time for today. Do feel free to put questions and opinions in the comments section for this next Talk the Wall episode. However, don't forget to leave your opinions on David Ford leaving the club. I really am interested in what you guys feel about the Ford issue. Do you want him to come back? Do you not want him to come back? And also, as I mentioned earlier on, I do want your score predictions for the Oldham game in the comments section, along with what went well and what went bad for the games. Now, I'll also in the next episode be covering the match, obviously, and I'll want to cover your opinions of the match, and I'll find some other things that we can cover. I'll probably talk about some of the players, how I think they felt, maybe rate them, which could be quite interesting. So, like, comment, subscribe, and of course I'll see you guys in the next Talk the Wall next week. Goodbye.